In this video, I'm going to show you the exact framework that we use that gets 71% of our clients to pay in full instead of choosing a payment plan. The common belief is that to get more clients to pay in full, you have to either use massive discounts or high-pressure sales tactics. But that's completely wrong. After analyzing over 10,000 sales calls, we identified the two most important elements that would determine whether a client would pay in full or not was who we were speaking to and how we presented our options. What I'm about to show you is a framework we developed that first fixes who you're speaking to and then addresses how you can confidently ask for a pay in full. So let's start with the number one reason why most businesses don't collect more pay in fulls, and I call it the audience mismatch problem. This problem is so prevalent that it's typically the number one thing that we'll do for a client as soon as they get enrolled if one of their biggest bottlenecks is not collecting enough cash. You see, most businesses haven't done the work to identify who their ideal clients are. Sure, you may have a rough idea, but have you actually gone down into the granular data and identified which clients, for example, pay you the most upfront, or which clients close on the shortest sales cycle, and which clients you get the best results for? And when you're able to analyze that data, then you can change your entire marketing messaging and your funnel to attract more of those people, instantly increasing the percentage of clients that pay in full. Time and time again, what most businesses do is create payment plans for every type of lead that gets on their calendar. And not only do these less qualified leads pay you less money up front, but if you analyze the data, a lot of the times they also are the highest delinquency rates, meaning that even if you stretch out a payment to 4, 6, or even 12 months, the vast majority of them are stopping their payment sometime between 50 and 70% of their way through the payment plan. I need you to get this through your head. Those are the wrong avatars to optimize your sales process around. Those people are not buying on value, they're buying on price. They are the comparison shoppers, the do-it-yourselfers, the tire kickers that most of you are optimizing your entire sales process around instead of excluding them, which is what you should be doing. Let me simplify this with an illustration. Typically, when you're creating an ideal avatar, we all know that there's about 3 stages. There's the wrong avatar, so these are the people that we definitely know that we shouldn't be working with. There's the okay avatars, meaning that, well, they're not our ideal avatar, but we could probably still help them and we can make some money from them. And then, of course, it is your ideal avatar. And what we've almost always found is that the wrong avatar or the okay avatar will always ask or end up on payment plans, sometimes not even completing those payment plans. And your ideal avatar, a lot of the times, has no problem paying in full. And to really drive this point home, I have a case study on my YouTube channel of one of our clients, Justin, who we were able to double his business in less than 30 days by just removing his bottom payment plan, because that payment plan was serving the worst type of clients. And so immediately he doubled the amount of cash that he was collecting per close, which doubled the amount of profit he was taking home at the end of the month. So how do you actually implement the first step of this framework? Well, this is what your new marketing and sales funnel should look like. At the very top, we're always capturing leads. This is typically basic information like name, email, and phone number. But then we need to make sure that we're adding multiple levels of qualification that segregates these people either into bad fits or okay fits, which might adjust what offer we're making for these people or payment plans. And then, of course, our ideal avatar or great fits, which is who we're going to offer the pay in full to, and we know we're going to collect that on that call. Now, let me walk through what that qualification stage can actually look like inside of a funnel. So first of all, the obvious one is making sure that you are calling out your ideal avatar in your marketing messaging. This is an example of one of our funnels here, but as you can see, I say only for coaches, course creators, and agencies. I actually even tested a version of this where I said only for coaches, course creators, and agencies making over $10,000 a month. By having this at the top of the page, at the top of the funnel, I know that I'm going to have more quality leads than I would otherwise. The other way you can add qualification to your funnel is when somebody is applying to work with you in the specific questions that you ask to see if they're a good fit to get on a sales call. I'm going to break this down into a couple of different questions. So the first one is going to be what I call the identification question. So when you are identifying who your ideal avatar is, it's typically going to be very specific. It's going to be a coach, a consultant, a course creator, a real estate agent. It's going to be a man in his 40s to 50s that's 20 pounds overweight. And so you want to make sure that you're always asking your prospects in their own words to define who they are. So in our application, we say, please explain your business in 1 to 3 sentences like you're talking to a sixth grader. So this is going to let us know before we even look at the rest of the qualification criteria, do they fall in our ideal avatar? The second type of qualification question you should have is a financial qualification question. And every single person, I don't care if you're selling life coaching, fitness, or if you're a business coach, everybody should ask this question because it is probably the easiest way to separate out your audience. For example, for us in our application, we asked what's your current monthly revenue in the business you're looking to scale? And the answers range anywhere from $0 a month all the way to $200,000 plus a month. Now, depending on which answers they choose, it will take them through an entirely different marketing and sales process. For example, we have one specific offer for people between $0 and $5,000 a month. We have another specific offer for people between $10,000 and $25,000 a month, and we have another specific offer for people between $25,000 a month all the way to $1 million a month. By separating out our audience like this, we're able to curate an offer that they are more likely to pay in full for. The third and final type of qualification is what I call the readiness question. For example, here it says, are you prepared financially, emotionally, and logistically to invest in this service? And by asking this question, what you're essentially doing is seeing how much content or how much information they've consumed before they book that sales call. For example, we know that if a prospect has watched a couple of our YouTube videos before they book their sales call, they're way more likely to say that they are ready to invest, which of course correlates directly with how many of these people actually pay in full. If somebody says they're not in a place to invest, we might cancel them off the calendar altogether. If somebody says possibly, we might outbound dial them before the call and try to get them warmed up a little bit more so that by the time they get on the sales call, they're more likely to pay in full. I want to be crystal clear. This is not about rejecting people. This is about making the right offer to the right person. Okay, so once you followed step 1 and you're only making offers to qualified people, let's talk about the second step that you need to attract more pay in fulls. Now, before you implement this step, it's important that you understand what I call the psychology of payments. You see, most people, whenever they hear their prospects say, I can't afford this, they immediately assume that it's logistical. They think that the prospect literally doesn't have the cash flow or the money in their bank account. But what if I told you that there's more times than I can count that a prospect says, I can't afford this, and ends up on that same call paying in full? That's because we understand the psychology of payments, meaning that we know that for the majority of them, they're not saying, I can't afford this and it's a logistical issue. They're saying, I don't believe the value outweighs the risk, and it's an emotional issue. When somebody is considering your offer, their brain is literally weighing pain versus value. Your job is to try to tip that scale as far into value as possible. What we found is that most of the time when a prospect asks for a payment plan, it's because they are trying to de-risk the situation. They view that by giving less money up front, it's not as risky as if they gave all of the money up front. Now, of course, anytime somebody purchases anything, there is some inherent risk involved. And so what you want to do is to show them that there is way more perceived value than there is risk. And you can easily do that following my presentation framework. So let's assume you've gone all the way through the sales call and you're about to drop the price. Before you drop the price, the first thing we want to do is we want to value stack. Because like I said a moment ago, as soon as we say the price, we know that their brain's going to start weighing them over into pain versus value. So we want to make sure we overwhelm them with value immediately before we drop the price. And that is where value stacking comes into play. A lot of people think that value stacking is cheesy or outdated, but it just relies on fundamental psychology, which doesn't ever get out of date. The simplest way I can explain why you need a value stack is that if you don't stack your value of your offer and put dollar amounts next to it, then you're relying on your prospect to do it for you. And when that happens, they're going to miss individual value elements that you have that you think is obvious, but they don't see, or they're going to price it incorrectly. So in your value stack, you might see your offer as worth $50,000, but in their mind, they might only see it worth $5,000. So then when you say the price is $5,000, then they're thinking there's way more risk than value here. But if they really felt like they were getting $50,000 in value for only $5,000, then obviously that balance scale tips way more on the side of value. Now, the next part of this presentation framework is arguably the most important, and we have tested this dozens of different ways. What we have found, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that if we only offer them one single option to pay, we drastically increase the likelihood that they choose that one option. And of course, the one option we want to present to them is paying in full. In your sales process, if you're currently offering multiple payment plan options whenever you first drop the price, I challenge you to test just offering one payment option, which is paying in full, and seeing how much that increases the number of clients on average that pay in full. Now, here's where we separate the boys from the men, because after you confidently say the investment for this is $28,000, you have to shut up. You have to be quiet. And the problem here is that what most salespeople or business owners will do is they will let the silence last for about 1 to 5 seconds, at which point they will crack because they feel like this person can't afford this. They don't think that their service is even worth that amount subconsciously. And so they'll say something like, and there's payment plans, or we could charge less. And they have no idea whether the prospect, if they just waited until the prospect spoke first, might just say something like, okay, great, let's get started. And even if they do offer an objection to that price, the next step isn't just to offer them the payment plan. The next step is to identify whether it is an emotional objection or a logical objection. Emotional objections sound like, that's a lot of money, or I need to think about it, or not sure, or that's more than I thought it was gonna be. Logical objections are talking about cash flow timing, meaning that I close a deal in a couple of days, or budgeting, meaning that, oh, we only can budget this amount to this every single quarter, or funds tied up, meaning I just put a down payment on a home. The vast majority of the time, when it's an emotional objection, all you need to do is use the isolation technique, meaning you say, okay, other than the price, is there any other reason why you wouldn't feel comfortable moving forward today? And what you will notice, if you're a good enough salesperson, is that the majority of the time, it actually has nothing to do with price. It has more to do with that value and risk discrepancy that we talked about earlier. In that emotional objection handling process, don't be afraid to remind them of the value that you're promising, and maybe even throw in a risk reversal for certain clients, because if you can say, hey, if we don't get you this result, we'll give you your money back, then you can potentially get that pay in full without ever having to offer any payment plans. Now, of course, for some prospects, the problem will truly be logistical, at which point you need to understand what I call your payment plan architecture. When you do finally present the payment plan, the key is to make it obvious why they should pay in full, and make sure that you're trying as much as possible to dissuade them from doing the payment plan. Remember, this isn't about punishing clients for going on a payment plan. These clients, if you've done that first step of this whole process correctly, where you made sure you're only speaking to your ideal avatar, should already be able to logistically afford your full pay. And so what you're trying to do here is making it obvious as to why they should make the full payment, and even rewarding them for doing so. For example, if you were to put the full pay and the payment plan side by side, you could show that the full pay has priority onboarding, meaning that maybe it's a one-on-one onboarding call with you as soon as tomorrow. And if they do the payment plan, maybe it'll be a standard onboarding with one of your highly trained client success managers sometime this week. In the pay in full option, they're going to get VIP support. So not only do they get a Slack channel access, but they're going to get unlimited one-on-one calls. In the payment plan, maybe it's going to be Slack access, but they only have 2 scheduled calls a month. In the pay in full plan, you can really stack bonuses on here, and you can get really good at this where you're adding bonuses that are relevant to what they said their problems were in the original part of the sales call. So for example, if they say their biggest issue is they want to launch a low ticket product, like for us, then we might say, hey, if you pay in full today, Ravi will give you his 4-hour low ticket product training that he filmed at his $50,000 mastermind just a couple of months ago. And so this is going to really lean them closer to that pay in full side. And if they choose the payment plan, there's either going to be fewer or no bonuses. And finally, the easiest and most obvious way to incentivize a pay in full is going to be some kind of discount. For example, here you can see it's $10,000 if they pay in full today, or if they pay 3 payments of $3,500, it's going to be $10,500. Now pay close attention, because the biggest mistake people will make in their payment plan architecture is they will make the pay in full be this amazing option, and they'll make the payment plan be this absolute horrendous option. And so in the prospect's mind, it's either I pay in full or I'm not going to work with them. And if the problem truly is logistical, then you might actually lose out on sales. So you want to make sure that the payment plan is still valuable enough that it tips the scales in your favor of value, but they can get those extra sweet spots if they end up paying in full. And as a little bonus here, the reason why we've been able to achieve a 71% pay in full rate is because even if somebody chooses the payment plan option, we will still give them in their contract written out the option to pay in full in the first 30 days, and they'll get all of those bonuses from the pay in full. So they'll get the discount, the priority onboarding, the VIP support, the bonuses, and this works especially well if you, like us, help your prospects or clients make money. Because what we'll do is that if it actually is a logistical issue, we'll get them on the payment plan, and then we'll deploy what we call our cash campaigns, which gets them an influx of cash in the first couple of days of working with us, at which point they can then use that cash that we just generated for them to pay off their entire amounts, making them a pay in full client. Real quick, before I do a final recap, if you want my help optimizing your offer, your value stack, your pricing structure, your marketing process, your sales process, your client success, operations, fulfillment, you name it, go down below and book a call to speak with me or my team today. So let's recap. The first thing you want to do is make sure you audit who your best clients are. So who are the people that are paying you the most money and have the shortest sales cycle? Then we want to make sure we're putting some kind of qualification criteria to attract more of those people and either detract or adjust the offers for the people that don't hit that criteria. Then you want to make sure you follow my scripting framework, so you only offer one option for a pay in full after you value stack, and then you shut the heck up after you drop that, and then make sure we isolate whether the pricing objection is actually a logistical one, meaning they physically can't pay it, or it's an emotional one, meaning that they just don't think it's valuable enough. And finally, if you do end up offering the payment plan, make sure that you reward the people that pay in full, or give the people that do a payment plans the ability to capture that reward if they pay in full in the first 30 days. If you like this video, be sure to also check out this video where I show you how we cut our sales cycle length by 50%.